The only thing I do know is that internally, I can say that I had an uncle. My father's brother died when I was very young. I actually remember it like it's like yesterday. Ronald Reagan became president. That was the last time I saw him at my house. So we watched the election. That's my first memory of like a presidential election. And I remember he was a lot. I think he was a lot like me because he was a party animal, drank. I remember he got carried out of the house and all that stuff. But when he shortly after that passed away, I remember feeling like. I don't know. I felt like this weird energy around me back then. He was a very successful guy. And I just remember feeling like energy, like this, like weird, like, man, like, I have something over my shoulders, and I'm not really like even like God. I'm not even like a religious freak or anything where I believe in like, God is pushing me and ghosts and spirits. But I had this like weird, like, I don't know. I feel this odd confidence that I had something like looming over me. Right. And who would have known that, like, 30 years, 20 years, whatever later, I became somewhat of a, I don't know, I hate to use the word celebrity, but a notable person in the music scene. Yeah. Where like I've had my successes and stuff, and I was destined. I always had this like, even though things were bad, I was always like, this is going to work out. And it wasn't even it was a work thing. It was a work ethic thing, but I always just seemed like luck. Just always follows me. That's amazing. It's a weird thing about the work ethic stuff, because so many bands start and go nowhere, and it's amazing. Like, as much suffering and struggling as anyone. It's not just in the hardcore world. Obviously, it's in everything. But if you just stick with it, sometimes you just, I don't know, you luck out. You get pushed into these places. I think it's it's also mental. Like if you're constantly just like if you're positive, and I think it's a mix of work ethic. And luck and just Well, I always fall in the right place at the right time. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but like with Unearth, like things always just like happen for us, and they happened easily. And then as I was in 2014, I met up with Larry Fishman just on a whim. I took a chance and just met up with like someone who I revered to be. He asked me to go try out some new product he was working on or something like that, and he floored me so much that like I was willing to leave all of my guitar pickup endorsements, which is like a big deal. I spent my whole career trying to get them to work with this guy who is a notable figure in the music industry. But like his expertise wasn't electric guitar pickups. And I just told him like, hey man, I believe in what you're doing. I want to be a part of history. And he and I built, the Fluence brand up to a point where it made no money to like, I think we're up to 25 million. You know what I mean? Wow. It's like, I don't know how these things find me, or why I get, why these things, like why I get like lucky in these scenarios, but they tend to happen in a good way for me. What was it about that switch? Like, you just heard one and you're like, man, this just sounds like something way different. Oh, he had this whole like speech about the technology being greater than what what it was in the past, and we could do anything and this, that, and the other thing. But like, to be honest with you, I took such a huge risk with him being like, I mean, this is just an exchange of two people talking and him telling me what he has and me recognizing how great his invention is. And then just being like, I can help you with this. And I like me putting my fucking money where my mouth is, just actually delivering for him was a big deal in my life. It's one of my greatest accomplishments, far over what I achieved in the band. What I achieved with the band was really monumental, but like what I was able to do with Larry Fishman is unheard of. That's amazing. Pickup manufacturing has been intact for 80 years, soundly, and we disrupted that in 3 or 4 years, and that's like unheard of. And why would that happen to anybody else but me and him? Right. That's incredible. So you're going on tour, I think, soon, right? Yeah, we're going with As I Lay Dying, we're going to Europe in November, December, and should rock and roll out there for a while. It's going to be great. Like I said, I came from a town, we had a lot of weird stuff. It was pretty haunted. Salem's obviously on next level. You've traveled a whole bunch with touring. Do other places at all register with you with weird stuff ever? Yeah, obviously one of the saddest places where I actually felt a lot of emotion. There's only a few times where I like witness something and I have a feeling behind it. Right. Mm-hmm. The first time I ever recently went to to Washington, D.C., there's a spot in where all the statues are. It's like it's set up high, and you get to overlook all of Washington. Okay. The first time I stepped out on that balcony and like really looked out and saw Washington at that vantage point, I felt like, oh my God, like what a great, like if, you know, Thomas Jefferson and George Washington got to see this and Abraham Lincoln, they would be floored at, you know, what we've achieved as a country. Like there's small moments in my history that, like, you know, my traveling history that's like really, really cool. But Transylvania's crazy. You know, like my lifelong dream, it's gonna sound totally dumb to you, but my lifelong dream is to get bitten by a vampire. And because like out of all the fictitious characters in the world, like if you're a werewolf, you bust through your clothes, that's not cool because you get to find pants when you get angry. Yeah, for sure. You die by a silver bullet, that's pretty easy. Like vampires are cool. Yeah. Because they live forever, they fly around, they sleep with hot chicks. And you just drink blood and stay away from like, steaks to the heart and garlic.
You won't miss the sunlight? You don't need that?
Yeah, I don't need sunlight. I play shows at night.
Still play shows at night.
Okay, so no ghosts, but vampires check.
And you're talking...
I can bite people like my friends, and they'll also look awesome, and we can party forever. So there's this one time backstage, I was like, we're on a tour with Dimmu Borgir, right? They look like pandas, you know, like they have the face paint and all that, and their fan base.
They'd be so mad if you said that.
And there was this dude who was backstage, and he had fangs, and he was in Transylvania, and I said to him, hey dude, are you like real life vampire? And he's like, yeah. And I gave him my speech. I was like, hey dude, I really want to become a vampire and all this bullshit. And we talked, and then I was like, all right, like, can I become a vampire? And he's like, yeah. And he was like, wanted to bite me. And I'm like, dude, like, can you just fucking turn into a bat or something? Show me some proof. Like spin around or do something weird, you know? And he's like, he could do that. I'm like, all right, you're just a fucking freak, dude.
You need
like,
proof.
Get away from me.
You need vampire proof before you sign on. It might just be some freak. You know?
Yeah, it was total bullshit. So if anybody's watching this is truly a vampire, can prove it, I'm totally down.
No, I think we might have some vampire viewers.
Definitely
I think we might. So you find Ken online, and I don't know. So you got to send proof, a vampire proof somehow.
I need to see you turn into a freaking bat.
Yeah,
and fly around.
Maybe like a daguerreotype, you know, from 1830, letting us see just how old you are. Yeah. No Photoshop.
Yeah. I want to see this shit. But anyway, one of the other most crazy, like the craziest spots I've ever been to is I actually stood in and checked out Auschwitz. And for those people out there that don't believe the Holocaust happened, I know there's a very small, you know, if people don't know what it is, you know, young kids, it was awful time in our history. And those that don't believe it happened, I think you're fucking bullshit.
Right.
And you should go check it out because that was one of the most moving experiences I've ever had. And it's the only time I've ever felt like true, like that feeling of like despair. And it's not because I was gearing myself up for it. I actually went there with on a very positive day, with a very positive mindset saying, I'm not going to feel any of this. And I just want to see what it was. And when you really just step on the grounds and you're in there, like it brought a tear to my eye.
There's something about being at a place where a lot of people died. I live near a lot of different battlefields, and I grew up on a battlefield. So there's just something about battlefields, and I don't know, like, again, I don't know if it's haunted per se, although I think it could be. I think there's also something psychically happening to people knowing the history. And one time I traveled out to Antietam, which is one of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War. And when you walk that land knowing that thousands and thousands of people died, and then in the surrounding towns, every like old building was turned into a makeshift hospital, and there's just mass graves of people, but also mass graves of sawed off limbs from like the bone saws and stuff. It's like, this is just crazy.
Yeah. Well, there's so many places like that. Even if you ever, that's amazing. If you ever been to Edinburgh, Scotland, there's this around Halloween, every single area has their version of a haunted tour. Where Boston, Massachusetts, we actually have a book where there's the story is great. Like there's a book that's made out of flesh in this particular area in Boston. It's like right down near the Common, and someone supposedly met with the author of that book. They were incarcerated, but their ghost lives with the book. And, you know, someone after hours or late night, like who's a direct descendant, I believe, of that person, had a conversation with them. Like it was no big deal. And the janitor or something like disclosed to him, like, oh, you just saw the ghost of so-and-so who made this book made out of flesh. Like there's like weird stuff like that in Massachusetts. That's a really cool one. And I forget what else I was going to say, but
yeah,
talking about weird. Edinburgh and Scotland.
Edinburgh, Scotland.
Yeah. Yep.
There was kind of like when I think it was called the Black Plague, when everyone was throwing like their shit in the streets and everything was contaminated. Everyone was just like diseased.
Yeah,
they were taking like people in their bodies and just dumping them into the ground. They were just digging holes, no graves or anything like that. So when the topsoil would erode, you would see like arms and legs and stuff like pop out of this field, and they show you the field in which like it's right near like a big church and stuff. Instead of having graves there, it was just these like bodies would just like, you know what I mean? Dead bodies would just rise from the ground.
Right.
And yeah, so they have their own haunted tour there that kind of like showcases all that cool stuff.
Yeah, that stuff's wild. Well, that reminds me of two things. First of all, the skin books. And for anyone who's been to Philly, the Mutter Museum is a great place, and they have books also bound in human skin.
That is disgusting.
And back in the day, they used to, at least the ones I saw at the Mutter Museum, they were old. I think you said that person was incarcerated as well, and it was people who were in jail that they executed, and they were like, we're turning you into a book. And at the Mutter Museum, I believe the contents of the book are the trial. It's like everything that they wrote in the trial. And then you reminded me talking about the bodies and stuff in the shallow graves. My grandfather was a hearse driver in Florida, and the same one who I thought I talked to in the ceiling fan. And before, they had a lot of new rules now in cemeteries where you have to be in mausoleums up top or encased in cement and like your coffin locked in ground because the water table's so high. He remembers back early on in the 90s, floods would happen and the bodies just rise out, and you got people floating down Atlantic Avenue that were buried last week or maybe decades earlier.
Did he surf them while they were like floating?
He should have. That would have been great. That's a great album cover, actually.
Yeah. That's amazing. There's so much. There's so many cool stories like that. It's actually a pretty cool American history story. Is that Paul Revere, right? Mm-hmm. You guys know who Paul Revere is, obviously.
Yeah.
Paul Revere warned us that the British were coming, and not many people know this, but he was also a practicing dentist, or a dental assistant. And in the Boston Common, there was a massive battle there where there was like thousands of troops, both American and British, just dead. And believe it or not, Paul Revere was separating and figuring out, basically identifying bodies due to the dental work that was done on most of the soldiers because he knew most of them.
Oh, that's crazy. And I'm going to add to that, as I believe this is true. Someone's going to fact check me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. His son or grandson became a grave robber. And they called that a resurrection man because they were also a doctor, and the only way to learn about anatomy back then was to go get a body out of the ground and then secretly bring it to the hospital.
He was doing that.
I think it was him. I think we wrote about it in the second book that we did for Inverted World. But
yes,
that was a thing all the time. So pretty sure it was his son or grandson. And I'm like, okay, that's a pretty crazy history of grave robbery. They're going out at night and just digging up people. And, you gotta learn about science.
I really want to see. Yeah, people are fact checking you on here. Please fact check me. I'm only regurgitating the stuff that I've heard.
Oh, they love to fact check.
No, yeah, I love it. But you know what? Even the fact checks could be wrong because in this day and age, you can find anything you want.
Yeah,
I would love it if everyone debunked everything I said on this thing. So this is totally worth
Ken Susi wrong at everything, even his own personal stories.
one thing you can't fact check is, have I ever told you my theory on time travel and and all that stuff?
Oh yeah, you briefly did when we were on the phone, but you should definitely get into that now.
All right, yeah. So my belief is, so I do a lot of touring, and when I'm on the street, a lot of times I see a homeless person screaming, just not uttering nonsense on the street, saying things like just basically saying random words, pointing out things, hey lady, blah blah blah, just spelling things out. And it dawned on me one day that if there were ever anybody in the world that would ever time travel, it would most likely, you don't want to disrupt history. So the only way to do it successfully is to be a bum and be super smelly and just yell out shit that people can hear in your spaceship or whatever in the future. He could basically talk through some type of technology in his teeth that is obviously recording everything and transmitting.
Oh yeah.
And I feel homeless people are time travelers.
Honestly, I think that's a possibility. I had a very good friend who, speaking of like a place like Danvers, when I lived in Beacon, New York, we had our own Danvers. It was smaller and it looked like an apartment building, but it was an asylum, a nice asylum. And some people were able to have, like they would be able to let out for the day and had a curfew if they were on enough medicine. And one of my friends was this guy, Howard. I believe he could have been a time traveler. He was probably just schizophrenic, but I think he was plugged in to like something greater that everyone else couldn't like understand. And people would hear him and just think, oh, this guy's crazy. He wore a nice sweater. He had nice parted hair. He chain smoked quite a bit and he was addicted to coffee. But if you stopped and listened to him, there was a truth to him that he was saying. And that was like 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. And a lot of stuff he was saying then, I'm like, Howard was a prophet, and he just disappeared. He disappeared one day.
Yeah, he probably either aliens took him or he was a part of the thing. Yeah. I feel like you can't if you're going to time travel, you can't be like Marty McFly and try to go check out your parents and try to save their marriage. I don't think it's going to work out. You got to totally be detected and just be a complete moron so people don't engage.
And just hoping that someone hears it. Like,
because if I transported you back to, let's just say the British-American War or whatever, or the Civil War. And I said, you can't change history. You can't go to these generals. You can't talk to them. You can't tell them that the internet's going to be a thing. You just have to go there and just kind of like, I don't know, be a fly on the wall. Yeah. I think you would find the lowest key thing that you could possibly do in order to like, just even the thought of like going back, let's say you believed in Jesus Christ, right? And you went back to, ancient times and you were there for when Jesus was, hung to a cross.
Right.
It would just be amazing to sit there and look around. And if you could transport your words to somewhere and be like, oh my God, right now they're doing this. And oh my God, right now they're doing that. The simplest tasks that they are doing at the time would be monumental to you. And so if you were able to like come back here from the year 3000 and land on this planet in 2024, you would be enamored with everything that's happening. Oh my God, they're just still driving cars. This guy's wearing hyper collar t-shirts or Air Jordans. Like, remember those? I think everything would be magic.
I actually have a tattoo of Air Jordans from the year I was born. Where would you go if we could send you back?
Oh man, that's a good question.
Or forward.
Yeah.
Well, we can't play the Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. We don't know what's forward.
Oh, I don't know the rules.
I mean, to be honest with you, if you want me to give you a hypothetical, I want to travel into the future where there's a teleportation device where I can freaking go on tour and not have to like drive in a van and sleep in a hotel. I can literally get in an argument with my wife and be like, oh, hold on a second, babe, I'll be right back. And then like go to Rio de Janeiro, rock a concert and come back. You know what I mean? And I think it'd be funny if like, the guys who are promiscuous on tour, if they wanted to cheat on their wives, they could be half in the machine and half out.
Oh man,
you know what I mean, with their mistress.
so much immorality with the machines. Oh man, that's crazy. What about
in the past though? I think I would want to see. I would think I want to see ancient like Roman times, like Greece, maybe something like that, or something like crazier, like just maybe something more relevant to my life, maybe like just my parents' life. Like I would go back in time to like, before I was born or when my parents had my sister or something like that and just chill and see what they were doing at that time.
And then be a homeless man as your parents walk by.
No, I would go back and tell my father. I would try to change history. I'd be like,
you're breaking your rules.
There's so many times where like we're at the family table. I'm like, when I invent, we call it the Wayback Machine, not time travel. Right. When I invent the Wayback Machine, I'm going to go tell you X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to make sure you slap X, Y, and Z, and then you're going to invest in X, Y, and Z, and I'll see you in 2024.
That's smart. That's smart. And invest in influence.
Yeah, no. Invest in friggin' Nvidia and tech and tech and Apple. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like go get your stock portfolio up.
Tesla.
Live in a modest house and then we'll be billionaires by the time I see you, by the time I'm born.
Sick. Well, Ken, this has been a real pleasure. Where can people find you? Where can they find everything you're doing and all the new stuff you're up to?
You can obviously find As I Lay Dying on Instagram or any socials, Spotify, whatever. Follow me on my own personal socials at Ken Susi, KENSUSI, on Instagram or Facebook. I also sometimes do a live stream on, I call it Lord of the Rigs, so like guitar rigs on YouTube. So find me there. I like to chill. and I like to party.
Awesome.
Hey, Ken, someone in our chat said, Ken rules. His name's Kevin Brady. We played a show with Unearth in Seattle, December of 2019, before the pandemic hit. That was the day I found out my wife was pregnant with my first kid, and I'll never forget it.
Sick.
Thought that was kind of cool. Just wanted to share that.
If you can write back, ask him if he named his kid Ken Susie or not.
Oh, I think so. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Lil Ken Susie. Yeah, dude, this has been a real pleasure. Your music has meant a lot to me, and I know there's a lot of people listening who feel the same. And the new As I Lay Dying stuff is amazing. I'm really excited for that whole album and to see you guys at some point.
Well, I really appreciate you guys having me. And if either one of you end up in Massachusetts for any reason, you have my number. Give me a call. Yes. I'll give you the tour.
Yes.
I'll drive you around in my car. I'll show you what's up. And my tour always ends with, and I love to promote this. My wife loves this too. Richardson's Ice Cream. Look it up.
Perfect.
It's in Middleton, Massachusetts. My tours always end with ice cream. And it's the best ice cream you'll ever have in your life.
All right. I'm sold.
I love it.
Man, Ken, thank you so much, man. Have a great one.